Sorry if I keep shaking up. Welcome, 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 my brothers. It is good to see you, and it's good to know that we are live on custom live streaming service. We are live on Facebook, and we are live on YouTube, and we're most definitely live on Zoom. The devil is a liar. He tried a thing a few seconds ago. After all the preparation Brother Ashley has been putting in all week for the month, last minute he's trying to pull a thing, but he's not going to work. He didn't reckon for men of God coming together to spread the message of love and hope and what it means to be a man. So welcome, 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 everybody. It's really, really good to be back with you, brothers. You don't understand. It's good to be here, munching with the brothers, about to munch on the word. It's good. So to everybody who's just joined, welcome back to the second season of the Mighty Men series. We were formerly known as David's Mighty Men, but now we are Moses's Mighty Men. Amen and hallelujah. We're gonna have some fun. All right, so for those of you who don't know, my name is Jermaine Wong, and I'm gonna take this time right now to just give the brothers the opportunity to just introduce themselves. Just tell the people who are online with us, who are joining us, to tell them your name, your bank account, your date of birth, all of that good stuff. Go for it. We'll go with you, Ash, the general.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, I just want to echo that. Thank you so much again for being here, guys. This was epic last time we did this with David's Mighty Men last summer. My name's Ashley. I kind of along with a few of the guys, just set this up last year, and mainly just because the idea was, as we were going through some of the stories from the word, we just found so many applicable lessons for us as guys, as men, and we wanted to just bring that to an audience and make it interactive as well. So love to hear from you guys on the chat as well as we do this. But yeah, that's me. Let me hand over to you, Jamshed.
Hi everyone, hope you're well. It's interesting, like, you know, when somebody asks you at work to introduce yourself, you basically list off the achievements that you've done in the past 6 months. But when it comes to like studying God, it's like, I don't really know what to say, man. So my name is Jamshed, a young Muslim, a friend of everyone in this group. Started last year with the previous Mighty Men, the inaugural one. And I'm really excited and honored to be invited back on.
Go for it. Go, only because you're next. You're right next to Jamshed, Darren. So I'm gonna ask you. You can go next.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm new to this. I think I was on the last one just as a guest, but I was invited by Ashley and the boys to just jump on board. Like, for me, this is a privilege and an honor to be around such men. You know, like when I looked at the different studies that they were going through last time, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is epic. To have to be part of it. Yeah, for me, it's just like, it's overwhelming. Like, God has truly come through. So, you know, I'm here to learn and to share at the same time. So yeah, looking forward to this big time.
And Leif?
Yeah, hey family. I'm so honored and privileged to be here with my brothers. It's always a blessing to open the word and just learn more. I'm just here to learn and share, like my brother Darren said. And, you know, I'm just praying that we get some insights that really change my life and make me a better man for my home and for my family. So I'm really big on like practically what I can gain. I know there's some guests watching today. I pray you're blessed. But, you know, I just want to welcome Tyler. I see you there, Tyler. And welcome Brian for the comments. You know, I just love when I see the brothers also coming out as well. So big up Tyler, Brian, and everyone else watching today. God bless you. And we're just excited to just jump straight in now.
Yeah, nice. All right, so hold on. I swear there was more man. Who's there with you, Leif?
Oh, they'll be here soon. They're coming.
All right. Cool.
Actually, Jay, I might just share. So there is a bigger team. Sorry, let me stop sharing the wrong thing. Now there is a bigger team, but we're not all here right now today, but we will be. So yeah, just to let you know, we'll be there'll be a few of us each study. We might have a couple of the different guys on, but eventually you'll see all of us as we go through the weeks. And so yeah, just wanna call attention to the guys that aren't here today, but will be here as we keep going through the studies. We won't read all their names or biographies out, but yeah, it's going to be a big team.
Nice. And I have to say, big up to Ashley for the artistry with what's going on there, looking like the biblical Avengers.
All right. So go ahead, Jay.
All right. So over the course of the series, we're going to be looking closely at the life of Moses. All right, my brothers, the life of Moses, and we're going to be drawing lessons from the significant men that surrounded his life and surrounded his ministry. So I'll be talking about men like Jethro, his father-in-law, who was a priest of Midian, men like his brother Aaron, who later became the first priest of Israel. We'll be looking at some of the opposing characters like Pharaoh and the king, who was king and god of Egypt, and seeing what lessons we can learn or the pitfalls we can learn from him. That's what we're going to be looking at over the coming weeks. Just so I want us to get our minds ticking from the very, very get-go. We are here talking about what it means to be biblical men. One of the theme that's running throughout the whole series is what makes a man. So I'm gonna kick off with that like preamble question. What makes a man? More in particularly, so it's not vague, what makes you a man?
Wow.
Are you a man? And if you are a man, what makes you a man?
Into the deep end, Jay.
Yeah, so I want you to answer it first, but not by saying, no, a man is a man that looks after us. No, I want to know what makes you a man. You, Darren, you, Leif, you, Jack, you, Ash. What makes you qualified to be a man?
So you know what, I think for me, the distinction for me is between man and boy, because that's really the moment when you get to the age that you realize you're grown. And it's weird because when you're young, you think there's going to be a set age. Like when I was a teenager, I thought 20 was the one. As soon as you're 20, you're a man. And I realized, actually, I thought before that you think 16 and then you think 18. And all the times you realize, oh, the mindset is just, it's the same. It's like you got a bit more money, you can do a few more things. But I think what really changes is when you get those responsibilities, or when you start taking responsibilities, where you actually start making decisions for yourself. I think that's not the only thing, but for me, that was a kind of moment where I thought, I'm not living to try and please other people's expectations anymore. I'm actually making decisions that are going to be the best for those around me and for my own future. So I think that's like a pivotal moment when you stop trying to live for other people. If you like, I don't mean not being selfish, I mean trying to live to please other people versus when you're actually making decisions yourself.
Nice. Okay. Nice. What brave soul is going next?
Boy, that's a toughie, isn't it? It's like, what makes you a man? It'd be easier to ask other people that question rather than to try and put yourself on the spot, because it's one of them ones there where you might say certain things about yourself and you just get exposed. So I can only say that life has made me a man. So I think having twin daughters at 24 was the beginning of transition from childhood to manhood, because that was like first real responsibility. Had to get a job, had to take care of not just myself, but also had to take care of their mother too. And then getting married, having more children. Like I think what makes me a man is how I respond to the events in my life. Mm-hmm. Simple.
Yeah. I mean, it's simple. You said it simply.
To me.
But it's profound what you're saying there, brother. I'm getting gunshots in where I'm at. Like, boop, 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 boop. All right, so nice. Life makes you a man. Why? I see brothers.
Wow.
I see brothers. All right, Jamshed, you look like he was about to rip in.
I was, but the
I see brothers.
the audience has gotten bigger. I got a bit thrown off. But No, similarly to what Darren said, I think it's for me in relation to the responsibilities that have been placed on me in terms of family, friends, and other things, and the desire to kind of want to do best by those responsibilities. So yeah.
Nice. All right, for the crew at Labe's house, abiding by social distancing laws. What makes you a man?
All right, I can kick it off. Well, what makes me a man, what I believe is responsibility, the ability to take on responsibility. Whether you're the best at that, is debatable for your own, whatever you class as your own level of achievement. But responsibility is a big thing. I believe that, the more you're willing to take on the responsibilities that are important to your life and to your family, whatever that may be, that's a big thing about being a man, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think for me, obviously society has a lot of definitions about what a man is. But I think for me personally, it's being true to who you are, if that makes sense. So embracing your insecurities, your vulnerabilities, embracing the things that maybe society says that because of this, you're not a man, if that makes sense. So just being true to yourself and just being who you are. So that's what I'll say, just a short answer.
Yeah.
Stephen's already coming with the bombs,
Yeah. I see the man then. All right. All right. Maybe one more. I'm gonna hear one more. So the only other person I can see is Clarky. I see another Fuller there though.
Me too.
It's funny,
Just look at. Oh, say no more. Yes, Jay, man. So what I would say, guys, man, for me, being a man is turning up, even if you don't feel like you're a man, or you might not even feel like you've done a good job, but it's a choice at times, man, more than feelings. If I would say.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right, so this is going to be the running theme throughout the sessions, throughout the weeks that we're going to be together. What makes a man? And to help us along with this theme we're looking at the life of Moses, early life of Moses, and the men surrounding Moses' life and ministry. All right, so the period of Moses, the part that I'm talking about today spans 15 chapters of the book of Exodus. Now, I'm not going to be reading these chapters, only making references to particular texts as we discuss unrealized expectations and what makes a man, all right? So today, brothers, the points of discussion are: 1, Moses being rescued and raised as a prince. 2, living as a shepherd in Midian for 40 years, and this is what I'm calling the great unlearning period of his life. What do you reckon his life was like if he felt like he wasted his opportunities, or if he had unrealized expectations? And 3, leading through the plagues and bringing people to the Red Sea. What did that mean for his life? And how did all of these events in his life help him to become the man who we now recognize as the man of God? Now, the key texts I would like to, there are going to be some key texts that I expand on, but before we even get into that, let me just ask this. Moses, then, man of God? So yeah.
This is an easy one, so I'm just going to say yeah.
Yeah. So Moses, man of God. We could agree that Moses is a man of God.
Yeah.
All right. So it would be safe then to give him the accolade of a real man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what makes a real man? Is it nature or nurture? We go to that first one for us, Ash. Yeah. And there's a reason why I'm asking this particular question, because I want to talk about what the effects of someone's culture or context in which they are brought up in plays a part in them being a real man. So what makes a real man? Is it nature or is it nurture? Let's look at this text. Then a new king to whom Joseph meant nothing came to power in Egypt. Look, he said to his people, the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them or they will become even more numerous. And if war breaks out, we'll join with our enemies, fight against us and leave the country. So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor. And they built Pithom and Ramesses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people. Every Hebrew boy that is born, you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live. What makes a real man? Is it nature or is it nurture? Talk to me about the context in which Moses is being brought up in, which Moses arrives in.
Okay, so what we know is that the Israelites have come to Egypt because there was a famine in where they were, and they've been there for like 400 years now, and history's passed. We're talking about centuries, we're talking about generations, and so there's a king now who they're distinctive still, but the king doesn't know, or the Pharaoh doesn't know their origins and their importance, if you like, to the continuation of Egypt. As far as he's concerned, he doesn't care. Like they're just people that are a threat to his kingdom. And so Moses is in a time of oppression, similar to now, a time of a certain privilege. There's a privilege for being Egyptian, and there's a privilege for not, and there's a lack of privilege for not being an Egyptian. And so it's interesting that even though there was a certain privilege for being Egyptian, the way that they view the Israelites is as a threat to their livelihoods rather than part of their cultural and important history, which is rather interesting because they are a significant part of their history, but yet they see them as a threat.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Anyone else? I'm not going to spend too long on this anyway, because we've got about 80 years of Moses' life to cover in this little session. So anyone else, does the culture and context in which a person is born have a say or a play or a role in what type of man they become?
I think so, because Moses is growing up in a culture where, or in a context where his culture is the other. He is not the anomaly, I should say, but he is the group of people who, similar to like people like us who are from diaspora, whichever nation or country that live in a predominantly, we live in a predominantly British English country, right? But our heritage connects to where our parents are from, many of us, right? So Moses grows up within a similar context. So that does have an impact on how you see the world, whether you realize it or not. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what? Something that jumps out at me is when it introduces it, like, as Darren said, the Israelites have been part of Egypt's history. If it wasn't for the Israelites, Egypt wouldn't have survived this famine that happened beforehand. So there's this thing of knowing the history, knowing the identity, and the identity is that, the Israelites have helped the Egyptians. And it says this Pharaoh didn't know Joseph. He didn't recognize that. And I think part of being a man is, yes, it's the cultural context, but it's knowing your place in that cultural context. Because as well as the Egyptians didn't know about the Hebrews, it's like the Hebrews also knew when they started getting oppressed, they knew they were waiting for a deliverer, because, their history had told them God's going to send deliverers, for you when you get in trouble. So you've got that two things of, we're ostracized people, but we're also waiting for deliverance from some corner. And I think that's in Moses' head as he's growing up.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Unless you got anything to say, I want to touch on what you just said there, Ash. based on what you just said, I think it would be good to mention or even address the faith of Moses' parents that are living in this context, in this culture. The faith of Amram and Jochebed. There's a did I send you the Hebrew text, Ash?
You know what? I may not have that up, but talk through it.
All right. So the Hebrew text is talking about the faith. By faith, Amram and Jochebed, they hid Moses for 3 months, knowing that the Pharaoh wanted to kill it. Now I'm strongly paraphrasing, but that's the essence of what the Hebrew text is saying. Hebrew 11, chapter 23. If you can find it, then just read that out for me.
Yeah, I'm there. It was by faith that Moses is on. By faith, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandments. Verse 23.
Yeah. So for me, they had Amram and Jochebed had a faith that in a higher destiny than servitude in Egypt. Now, when I was studying that Hebrew text, I come across this in a commentary, and I thought, whoa, they had faith in a higher destiny than servitude in Egypt, and this is why they went against the royal decree. Now, later, when Moses was older, he exercised this same kind of faith, which it screams to me the type of faith that as a man, or being a parent, or man who's got a child, it says something about the type of faith that we need to have. Because something about that faith is going to spill over onto your offspring. Something about that faith is going to spring on over to your child.
It's powerful. So we go on. I was just going to say that we could argue then that part of what makes you a man is your upbringing, right? Or part of what makes, because I think there are men, okay, but what the difference is the adjective. All right, so there are all types of men. So we can have good men, bad men, not so good men, and so there's two things: perspective and I've forgotten the other word I was looking for. But perspective, definitely, how we perceive the man, and the adjective, how we describe the man. So we would like to describe Moses as a good man, but because we see what he does, and we have foresight, and so not foresight, we have hindsight to see that what he does. So for me, I think that's crucial. Your upbringing determines the kind of man that we see, and probably we describe as well. And I see in his parents, definitely his mum, I see, especially in the story, I see someone who is like definitely faithful in terms of what she sees in him and her desire to follow that through, because everything that unravels is just like this amazing plan that makes no sense to me. Like, your son is supposed to be thrown in the Nile with everyone else, but you put your son in the Nile anyway. Yeah, and I want to let you carry on, because like my mind is blowing at this little section here. Like, I was like, what's going on? This is nuts. But
All right. So later on, when we read the story, we realize that Moses refused the honor and the rank and the power of being an amazing ruler, glorious ruler in Egypt. All right. Because of a high destiny which his parents would have told him about. This is what's happened. This is the context in which he was born in. This is what's happened. And I believe, his parents are saying, I believe that this high destiny, this deliverer is you. This is not something that is fact. This is something what Hebrews says, by faith they hid him. And now by faith they're telling him, we believe that this is you. And that same faith is the thing that has made him be like, you know what, I'm going to trust in the story in which my parents told me, and not take the riches of Egypt, but count myself as one of the slaves. So that faith there is, I mean, to go along with that story, that isn't just a theoretical type of faith that Jochebed and Amram are saying. We think they are living this thing to the point where when Moses has got a chance, he's going to follow this, he's going to live the story of his parents instead of the riches of the greatest nation in the world.
Jay, can I come in on that for a sec?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I think, do you know what? This is one of those things. This is why we do this, is that we get so used to hearing the stories, because ever since we were kids, if you grew up in church, you've been told the story of Moses. Even if you don't go to church, you kind of know Moses put in a basket and stuff. And I don't think we really get what a big deal this was. Like, I'm just going to go to the text. The text is up on the screen. So it says, there's a man of the tribe of Levi. He married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. Now, when she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. Now, just even that, picture what it's like hiding a baby for 3 months. Like, we've seen the movies, you know, when the people in Germany are hiding Jews from the Nazis or whatever it is. That's tense. You've got soldiers walking around, and, you know, try playing hide and seek with a baby. That thing's going to be crying all over the place. You know, if they hear a cry, that's the baby's life. It's probably your life as well. So the tension there. But then it goes to the point, it says, when she could not hide him any longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it among the reeds of the bank of the Nile and stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Now, like, I don't have kids. A lot of you guys have kids. Just the thought of not leaving your baby somewhere alone for, you know, for 5 minutes, but dropping your baby in a basket in the Nile. You guys seen those Nile crocodiles? It's not a joke. Like, that's literally just that situation is so dangerous. But what's the alternative? You know, if you don't do this, your baby's going to die. So dangerous. And I think understanding what he was saved from, understanding how he was saved, because here's the last part, and then I'll shut up because I saw Johnny wanted to comment on this. But the last part is this, is that they put him in the water. Just him surviving for a few weeks would have been a miracle. But the miracle gets way more intense, because it says Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe. And as the attendants were walking along the riverbank, she saw the basket among the reeds. Now, if you're watching the daughter of the guy who's given the order to kill the babies approach your son's basket, you think it's game over. No way is he surviving this. You're praying that they don't find him. But when they find him, what are you thinking? And then suddenly, I won't read through all the text, but they find the baby and she decides, I like this baby, I'm going to adopt this baby. And that's already a miracle. And then the final part is your daughter goes up to the princess and says, hey, I've got a nursemaid. She can look after him. And then, and then the princess says, I'll pay you to look after your baby. So not even are you not dying, but you're being paid to openly, publicly look after your baby. Like, come on, guys. You know, it's testimony time in church, and we stand up and say, oh, I found my keys that were lost. Imagine that testimony that Moses has. And you're thinking, God's got a purpose for my life. You understand? Sorry, Jam, I know you wanted to come in on it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I totally agree with Ash in terms of that part of the story. We don't often pause and reflect on how difficult it actually was, and it reminds me, well, it shows us that he was born in conflict. And that story, although the details may be different, is not unfamiliar to other people that have been raised in conflict, or other people that have been raised being persecuted. Me being an Ahmadi Muslim, persecution is pretty close to my heart. Having family members that have been persecuted and things. So those things, in terms of, you know, we talk about nature versus nurture. There's no doubt that affects the growth of a child from a very, very young age, whether that be difficulty in finding the right types of nutrition and food for your kids, like growing up in that type of environment. Think about the types of places where they would have had to hide and sleep. Like, all of those things actually affect the growth of a child. So yeah, essentially he was born into conflict.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So his context and the culture in which he was brought up in, the faith of Amram and the faith of Jochebed, and even the faith of his sister. His sister, for me, screams faith in action. I'm not just going to watch and hope and pray that nothing's going to happen, but I'm going to move with this blessing. I'm going to move and I'm going to put things in place. I'm going to even suggest certain things that happen in faith. And maybe in her mind, maybe the queen, maybe the princess might let my mom do it. Let me just ask. So she screams to me faith in action. So we understand this so far. The context in which Moses arrived in would have played a part. Definitely the faith of his parents would have played a part in his faith, in my opinion. We know that Moses is a faithful man. He refuses the glory of Egypt. That tells us that much, that he is a faithful man. But some of his actions now. So I'm getting to Moses as a person now. So we looked at the context in which he's grown up, and I know that he's faithful. I can accept that he's a faithful man. But some of his actions bring into focus the quality of his faith to me. Now, I don't dispute at this point of his life, he's about wanting to do what God wants to do. But something about his actions are telling me something about the quality of his faith, the quality of his manhood, maybe, if I can stretch that far. And the clue is in a text in Exodus chapter 2, verse 11 to 14. I believe we got that up we got it up on one of the slides there.
Yeah.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 11 to 14. And after we read this, I'm going to ask a potentially exposing question, right? So, all right, here we are. Is it 11? Is that 11 to 14?
Yes, I think I just labeled it wrong, but I think
Okay.
that's it.
All right, let me see. One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his people were and watched them and their hard labor. And he saw the Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. So you notice how it says this twice already in one sentence. So this is something that they want us to know, that Moses considered the Hebrews his people. He saw the Egyptian beating one of his own people. Looking this way and that way and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" Then the man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? You thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "What I did has been known, has become known." When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, and it goes on and goes on and goes on. But it's that section up above that I'm interested in. Something, I don't know about you, something about Moses' actions here tells me that he is faithful, but something about his actions here is making me question what that faith is all about. Now, I don't know. I'm going to answer a potentially, unless you want to respond to what I'm saying, unless that's pricking something, I've got a potentially exposing question. Can anybody relate to what Moses just did here?
Yeah, definitely. I think we need to cut Moses some slack. Like, yes, he was raised. Yeah, he was raised by his parents.
Why? Because we can relate, or what? Why was me cutting some slack?
Because the key word that Jam used was conflict. He has Christian or Jewish upbringing. Let's just say Jewish. Forget Christian. Sorry. Or actually, just even forget that. He has Israelite upbringing, but he lives in the royal courts of Egypt.
I just need to get my charger. Keep talking.
No worries. Yeah. So already he's got conflicting ideas in his head. He's basically, if you're raised in the royal courts, you're raised to be king or to be royalty. You're supposed to act a certain way. That's it. But then he's also got the conflict of his history of who he is, and they're in conflict. So when he sees a situation as a man of power and authority, he just takes matters in his own hand. But you can see straight away that he's not sure about it, because he doesn't do it boldly. He doesn't like kill the man or get the man arrested. He basically kills him, then looks left to right. In fact, he looks left to right because he's not sure, then buries him because he's not sure of what he's doing, because he's in conflict. He's in conflict between his Egyptian upbringing, which is evident, and his Israelite upbringing, which is evident as well.
Yeah.
On that point, I don't know, bruv, I don't even know if he knows he's Israelite like that, because he's actually just grown up in the courts. So
no, but Leif, he hasn't.
He's just Egyptian. Like his mindset is Egyptian.
He's not, man.
He's not.
No.
Conflicted.
But hear what I'm saying. When you think about it, yes, his mum is his carer in some respects, right? But how does he know he's a Hebrew? Okay, let me ask it another way. Does the Bible tell us that Moses knows he's Hebrew?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. in the first in the first sentence, he mentions it twice. It was his fellow people. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his people. So,
I know. No. Hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Bible doesn't tell us that Moses is an Israelite. What I'm saying, does the Bible tell us that Moses knows?
Right. I hear you.
Are you with me?
But Leif, I think he does as well, though, because that's the point, is that, like, I think that's part of the testimony, bro. It's not just that he was saved from death and he took him to Pharaoh's house. Because if that was just the case, they would have lost him the same way as if a crocodile had eaten him. The fact is that his sister Miriam came up and she was like, oh, I know someone who can look after your baby for you, princess, because I know you can't, you don't have time for that. And they're like, okay, you can raise the child. They raised him till he was 12 years old. What do you think they told him?
No, bruv. That's no. Hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I personally believe we're adding to the text here.
No, but there's another reason why, though. Because if you go to Hebrews 11, where it says in Hebrews 11 when he was growing up, I think, sorry, let me get the verse. It's not on screen. But verse 24, when he'd grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. And so I think, like, this is something that I think this is part of the miracle. And this is what we were saying about the context of you growing up. If you're growing up thinking your people are going to be delivered, and then your mom is telling you, by the way, we rescued you from the water. God provided a miracle.
The Bible doesn't tell us his mom even said that to him. Like, no, I'm not saying you're wrong,
Okay.
This is having a discussion.
I hear what you're saying, Leif. When you look at Hebrews, it makes it clear. Moses chose to live with the slaves than the riches than Egypt. So he knew. He made a choice. Now he's not going to make the choice to live to be with the slaves if he doesn't think he's part of those people. So that's not even I mean, it's a good point that you're raising, but that's not even a thing that I want to home in on. I believe he is faithful. I believe that he does identify with the Hebrews. I believe that he did say, I'm going to choose the life of a Hebrew slave over the life and glory of Egypt. I believe that. And I believe that is a faithful move of Moses, of early Moses. What I don't want to give him slack for, as Darren is saying, is the quality of what he's doing. Because you're looking this way and you're looking that way. I know what a man's doing when he's looking this way and looking that way.
But that's the conflict, bro.
And when a man is looking that way because he doesn't want to be seen, he is up to no good.
Jam. But you don't. The reason why I say it's conflict, the Egyptians could kill Hebrews. There wasn't even a problem. It wasn't an issue. Like, Moses could have blatantly killed that man and walked away like, I killed him. And what? No one's going to do nothing. No one's going to do nothing. That's the conflict. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if I not listen, let's put it another way. Let's just imagine this is like the queen is in control of the country. It means the queen can come up to me and she can shoot me in the head. And there's not one person can do anything about it. If the queen starts looking left and right, and she's got that power and authority, there's conflict going on. Because all of a sudden she's not sure about one, the power that she has, or even possibly two, who she really is. And that's what I'm saying is happening here.
All right, and I don't disagree. I actually agree. I actually agree with what you're saying.
Are you, man, saying Moses knows he's Israelite here?
I'm saying there's conflict. I'm saying he doesn't know who he is.
No, that's not my question. I'm saying, does he know?
All right.
I personally don't think he does.
I think he knows.
If he doesn't know he's Israelite,
go on.
If he doesn't know he's Israelite, why is he killing?
Yeah, why did he kill the Egyptian for hurting the Israelite if he didn't know he was an Israelite?
You're missing the point. Okay, let's go deeper than that. All right, you're right. He knows something about himself. Remember what Stephen said at the beginning about what it is to be a man. It's about staying true to yourself. Identity or nationality are not enough to identify who you are. They're just like markers. Like, we get carried away sometimes. Color of our skin, football team we support, religion, and all those things, but they are just part of who we are. There's like a bigger, massive picture. Moses is trying to define himself, or find himself rather, and so this is part of that journey.
As what though? And I agree. This is my understanding. Moses is trying to define himself as Israel, the Hebrews' deliverer.
but he's also got the conflict of being raised in the royal courts, which is in the back of his head. Nature, nurture, both are battling him.
Yeah.
Both are battling him.
And this is my point. The conflict here is not is for me, the conflict is not about whether he is Israelite or Egyptian. For me, the conflict is, am I going to be the deliverer, or am I going to allow God to be the deliverer? Am I going to deliver these people, or am I going to allow God to use me to deliver the people? Because for me, that's where the conflict is, and that's where the questioning. That's where I'm not giving him no slack with his faith. I believe that he's a faithful man because he's choosing to act on behalf of the Israelites. He's choosing to reject the Egyptian lifestyle and choose the life of a slave. That's faithful moves. But how he's doing it, looking this way and looking that way, he can't be caught while he's doing it. It screams to me of self-righteousness, because there are patterns that other people who try to do their self-righteous thing, they have the same type of pattern. Looking that way, killing, all of that in the name of God.
Okay.
That's where I'm going with it.
Clark and Andrew.
So let me ask a question, Jay, just based on that premise. Because we're saying it's a faithful move. I'm a black man. If I go outside and I see, another black man being mobbed, say for instance, by default, because of what I identify as or with, I'm going to help him. Does it make sense? Yeah. But then the Bible says that Moses went back to live in the palace. And it was only when he found that Pharaoh knew and Pharaoh was going to kill him, that's when he left.
Yeah.
So therefore, how do we break that down as a faithful move when he went back to what he knew? Does the question make sense?
Yeah,
so he done the dirt. Okay, that means this. If Pharaoh didn't find out, Moses will still be there now.
All right. And the point that you're making, that's the point I'm making. That
okay.
I believe Moses is a faithful man, but the quality of his faith has to come into question, because the quality of that, to me, it bears the hallmarks of someone trying to accomplish God's business through their own strength.
Okay.
100%.
I'm not allowing God to do it through him, because his own strength is this: I need to sneak around, I need to kill, I need to hide, I need to start worrying about what's going to be happening to me, I need to be on the down low, and then I need to run. These are the hallmarks of, when you see other characters in the Bible, these are the hallmarks of people who are doing things for God, but they're doing it in their own strength. And it always has those same hallmarks. Adam and Eve, they're trying to cover up themselves. What is it? They're running, they're hiding, they're afraid of what's going to happen to them. Cain and Abel. Cain is trying to do the righteous thing. He's trying to give his own sacrifices. What happens? Killing, hiding, trying to hide from people. Same with Peter. Peter wants to protect his Jesus. So what does he do? He draws out his sword to kill someone. Then what happens later? He's hiding. He's afraid of what's going to happen to him. So for me, he's a faithful guy, but the quality of his faith is screaming. He's trying to do this thing in and of his own strength. Okay. And that's where I'm not letting him up. That's where I'm saying where God now has to bring him to a place where he has to unlearn his own version of what it means to be a faithful guy.
Go on, Ange.
Yeah, that's
what I wanted to.
That's a facts, man. Because I just think it's hard to overly study a man's faith that was naturally happening there and there. Like we can like overly dissect it, but it was very natural. Like it was just happening. Like it's like he like whatever he knew or whatever he didn't know. All I know is that God 100% had a plan for him, and he didn't even need to know 100% what choice he was going to make. Like, I don't think he was saying, you know what, even though I know I'm a Hebrew and that's my people, I don't think he was saying, I'm 1000% going to ride now, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's like let's say I go to church all my life. I know the facts. I know that we're called out people. I know that you're not meant to smoke and drink and all of them stuff, but me knowing that doesn't make me any more a part of the fold than someone else that doesn't know that.
Yeah, of course.
Even if I know I'm overly oppressed. So where I you know, my radar pricked up was when Jermaine said that he's not giving him any slack. Moses doesn't even need no slack. I don't think God is mad or overly upset. That's my opinion. Like, I don't think that God was mad that Moses did that. I don't think that he was like, oh man, Moses blood. I'm not saying it's right, you know. I'm actually saying it was wrong, 100%. But I just know the God that I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I've done Moses things.
Yeah.
And God, I'm telling you, has shown me after the whole ordeals, I kind of needed you to do that, bro. How can you have needed me to do that? But it's a fine line. I'm not saying that God is saying, do the worst things so I can save you. But based on our natures, based on how far we are from God, based on how God's got to save mankind, he's got to allow certain things to happen so that we can see that we need to change.
He has to navigate the evil.
Yeah.
He has to navigate what's going on. And I like what you said. I like what you said there, Andrew, because when I say not giving Moses any slack, I'm not saying I'm against Moses. I'm saying Moses is faithful. Moses is faithful, but we have to understand where his faith is at this point of his life. Where his faith is at this point of his life, he's moving faithful as a deliverer, but in the way that he knows how. But what I'm highlighting is his mode of deliverance at this point is not true deliverance. Because when we read just a few texts later, the same spirit that was beating the Egyptian is the same spirit that the Hebrew is using to beat a fellow Hebrew.
Yeah.
There's a deeper deliverance that needs to happen here. And Moses is thinking about, right, I can do almost like the surface level. It's almost like a baby who's learning to walk. And he's walking, and we're just like, yeah, he's walking. But that's not the journey. That's not the mile walk that needs to happen for the proper deliverance that needs to take place.
I'm with your premise, Jam. I'm definitely with your premise. I just think that you're right to question the quality of his faith, because I think that we all can. I don't think there's a big issue in that, in terms of. But the thing that screams out to me even larger than this is his reaction after he's done those things, like you said before. One, he's not even sure he should be doing it in the first place because he's looking left to right. And secondly, as soon as he knows that Pharaoh knows, in the same place where he's born, like Pharaoh's like his grandfather, if you like, his adopted grandfather, he's running. This is a man who is struggling with his identity. How are you going to run from your grandfather?
I think, Dan, like, this is the thing, is that's what I think is why, you know, like you were talking about, does he know he's Israelite and stuff? I think for me, it shows, because put yourself in Moses' position for a second, right? Is obviously your mom raises you. I personally think she's told him, you know, we were praying for a deliverer. We were praying for you to be delivered. God did it in a miraculous way. He did it in a way that got you into the palace. And understand, like, Moses feels he's going to be a deliverer. He doesn't think he's going to deliver his whole nation by killing off one soldier at a time. But he's in the palace. He's in what looks like the perfect position to deliver his people. All he has to do is sit tight, get into government, and then say all the slaves are free. You know, it's not even hard. So it almost looks like it's a done deal, Israel's deliverance at that time. But I think because he does identify as an Israelite, when he sees one of his people actually being beaten, like, I don't think that's a pre-planned way of delivering. I think that's his instinct. This is just like, nah, not having that. Let me do it. And then he realized it. Hold on, killing one of the Egyptian soldiers for hurting an Israelite, they're not going to stand for that. So he tries to hide the body because he realizes this was a moment of passion, but this actually messes up the whole plans. And then when he discovers, you know, Pharaoh's grand. So I don't think he has any allegiance to Egypt, but the allegiance is the way, like Jermaine was saying, the way he thinks he's going to deliver is with the political clout he has because he's a prince of Egypt. And now he realizes, I've done this thing. I've done it my way instead of relying on God's way. And I think I've messed up my situation. And I think Andrew's right. He had to, not that God wanted him to murder a guy, but the path he was on was not the path that God had in store for him. I think he had to do something drastic where he takes him out of that situation to unlearn some of that thinking that he thinks he's just going to deliver them by his position. And that makes sense.
All right. Okay. I like where this is going because it's led us So, all right, if Moses is a faithful man, but his faith needs growing, it seems, at this point. Because if it's got any type of self-righteousness in it, or any self-dependence or self-reliance in it, then that needs to be uprooted. That needs to be rooted out. In order for him to be the man of God in which we later know him to be, that element of his faith needs growth. And I think the way how God allows him to grow, God needs to give Moses some space and some time to learn faith without self-reliance. Now, sometimes this is a hard lesson to learn. How not to be self-reliant. How do you tell a man who's grown up in a context like what Moses has grown up in, who seems like they've been given a responsibility of royalty and political clout and all of that? How do you tell a man like that to not be self-reliant? Or what you need in life, the remedy for what you need in life, young man, is to not be self-reliant.
On that point, I don't think it's anything that you can say. You know, can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that's anything that can be said. I think it's something that has to be experienced. You know, for you to understand that you need to be dependent when all your life everything is the complete opposite, right? Then that's something that's experienced. Like you hit rock bottom, or you hit a place of, man, I can't do anything this for myself, whatever that may be. Then you realize in experience that no, I need to rely upon someone else. And ideally, in this context, we're saying he needs to rely upon God.
You know what? I like what you said there. You know what? Let me backtrack, because I'm assuming that we're all on the same page when I'm talking about men need to let go of self-reliance. I'm just assuming that that's what we're all thinking. Let me throw that out there. Can you be a man and not be self-reliant? Is that even something? Is that even something you're supposed to be telling the man them out here in 2021?
Well, a lot of men naturally think that way anyway. Like, and a lot of men, we think like that. I gotta get certain things in place financially. You know, we generally, many of us, we think work, finances before we think like even relationship and children and whatnot, right? And in some respects, that's a respectable and if not a wiser way of doing it. Or, you want to get certain things in place so that when you have a family, you're not having to like be in the most stressful position when you start that home. But self-reliance, right, can also lead to a place where you don't move by faith because you're only moving in your own strength and within the limits of whatever you can do. So if I think I can only do so much, I won't go beyond that, because going beyond what I think I can do is where faith stands. In that place of faith is uncertainty, and we don't like uncertainty. Go on, Clark.
And I think it's an interesting question, simply because I think with a lot of things in the Bible, the object isn't the issue, but how it's used is. So you got self-reliance. Self-reliance isn't a bad thing. One of my favorite authors, they say this, is that we're to work as if it all depended on us and pray as if it all depended on God. So therefore, self-reliance for me isn't necessarily a bad thing. It only becomes negative when we obviously replace that with faith, or take out faith out of the equation, I should say. So for me, to answer your question, should a man be self-reliant? I would say yes. Is that saying should a man strive for financial freedom? Well, why wouldn't he? But then it's just to make sure that the Bible breaks down, man, that in all things, obviously you put God first, and store your treasures and all them texts, man. So that's my perception. I don't think it's a bad thing in and of itself. However, like a knife, it can be used to cut people or be used to cut, chicken, say for instance. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, man.
Yeah. I remember that analogy still. That's nice.
Go, Jam.
Yes, Steve, you wanted to say
No, Jam first.
Oh,
I think Ashley might have been first.
I was just pointing at you because I thought you were first.
Cool. So the opposite of self-reliance is submission in this example, right? So the context with which Moses understood submission, it can be argued, because he's in the palace, is the slaves that were in the palace also. So in that context, like the natural connection in his mind would be, if I'm not self-reliant and I'm submissive, it's going to be like these slaves, which is a really, really big concept to grapple with in your mind when you've been raised in a palace. So it must have been really difficult to let go of the self-reliance thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to say this: self-reliance is a myth, a big myth. It's not possible for you to be self-reliant on this planet. You need someone in order for you to grow. Community is the reality. God made us to be in the community. I get the idea behind self-reliance. You need to rely on yourself to do this, that, and the other. You can't rely on other people. But God never created us to be like that. Never, not at all. You created us to have interdependencies or codependencies. In other words, to work together in order to achieve objectives, to achieve goals. But I do understand the concept behind self-reliance as a modern day man, but it's a myth, because I know that I'm not the man I am today because I just decided to be that. Like, there are so many people involved in my story. So I can't be self-reliant, but I wanted to be. Like, I didn't, like, the clothes I'm wearing right now were not made by me. I didn't go out to the field and cut up the cotton, and I'm not taking it to extreme levels, but I think it's important to get there, because I think sometimes that mindset of self-reliance gets so deep that you think you want to take on the whole world by yourself, but you need an army of men to change the world. Even if it's just you with the idea, you still need some men that are going to take that idea and grow it into something tangible and amazing.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
The good thing about this point is that Darren is 100% right. And I think that's why discussion is so good here, because another point, contrary to that, it might sound contrary, but it's just context. So there's some people that I know, right? They need to learn not self-reliance, like as a principle, so I'm going to give them a foundation of rely on yourself. So me telling them, don't call me this time, crack on yourself. That's not giving them the principle of being self-reliance. That's me telling them there's going to be times in your life, right, where not that you have to be self-reliant, you're going to have to be. Sorry, if that makes sense. Like, sorry, not that you're going to have a choice whether you're going to, call the man them or not call the man them. Because there's times when I build my circle and I got man them around me. And then there's times where, even when I'm crying out to God, right, and I'm hearing no answer, and I'm quiet in that time. I'm just quiet in that time. If I don't even know how God works, I don't even know about God is quiet even though he's moving, I don't even know about that. I just think that there's people that's got by relying on themselves, but not in the context of it's me against the world. It's like, that's why I say it's all context. Like, there's people that are actually moving how Darren's moving. That's wrong. Like, man, them are just like, as a man, we got to teach them. It's them, and we know that's blatantly out of the picture. But it's like, there's things that I can only do on my own. And I think that that's not self-reliance, but it's like an arm of it. It's a form of it. But I just think that we got to be careful in not throwing out, what's that saying? Throwing out the baby with the bathwater and that. Because the young boys that I work with, they need to know that their mentor is not going to wake them up every morning. It's not, I'm not. They need to know that they got to get up and do something. And when they build their principles, then they can grow a system where they're relying on each other, if that makes sense. Like, where they understand that, hey, you can't do it all on your own, Yeah.
Yeah, just to comment on that, I love that point. Do you know what it is though? It's what we're talking about when we're talking about self-reliance, because I agree with Darren. Like, people call themselves a self-made man, but nobody changed their own nappies. You know what I mean? Like, everyone has help to get to where they're going. But and so yeah, but when it comes to being a man, I think a big part of that is not coasting, not being lazy and relying on other people to do things for you that you should do yourself. I wasn't trying to be a 50-year-old living in my parents' basement or anything like that. There is that thing where you need that push. But I think the real thing that I think, if we're talking about Moses' story, is what are we talking about when we're talking about the alternative to self-reliance? Because there's relying on other people, but then relying on God. And in the context of what Moses was called to do God's work, to deliver God's people, I think when you're talking about doing God's work, that isn't something you should ever be self-reliant with, because it's God's work. You're kind of the conduit for God. And I think that's where Moses' issue was, is it wasn't just he was doing anything by himself. It was the work of delivering God's people. He was trying to do through his own strength, because he saw God's brought me to this point where I'm successful. Therefore, I can do this by myself. And I think if you do any kind of ministry, if the ministry starts going well, the biggest danger you're ever going to have is thinking, well, we're good, we know how to do this. And you don't even try and seek God out, or you don't try and rely on God for that. But we got mighty men multiplying God.
I just wanted to add to the point. So one of the things that stuck out to me here was the three bases of relationships. So we got dependence, where you're dependent in a relationship. Then we get the stage where you're independent, where you're doing things for yourself, like what Andrew's talking about in terms of empowerment, and what Darren's talking about in terms of you're relying on someone else. But then there's the final stage of interdependence.
That's what I mean.
What I'm doing for myself with you. And I think that's where God's trying to bring Moses at this juncture.
Yeah, just to jump in, that was what I was talking about. I called it codependency, but interdependency is a better word, because it isn't about that. Sometimes the word reliant gives us the impression that it's just like we're just waiting for one man to do something before we can do something, which is what happens sometimes. That's the real. But sometimes, you got to do your thing and then let everyone else do their thing. Like, you're not waiting on one man to do one thing. You're just doing your thing, and then you're hoping that other men fall into place. If they don't, you're still doing your thing. I think what we have here is actually saying is Moses trying to do all things, like overthrow the system, kill the Egyptians perhaps one by one. I don't know. And then just like, yeah, he just thinks he can do it all, but he can't. And that's probably why, as we get onto it, why Moses needs to be around the sheep, because he needs to learn a different way of handling business.
You see what you just did there, dude?
It's called linkage.
You see what you just did? Interdependent thinking right there. So, all right. So with and these were beautiful points. I love this. With what the point that I wanted to make with Moses is that Moses is my guy. He's one of my favorites. And at this point, Moses is faithful. But Moses, for me, is a 2-year-old who's walking and stumbling. Now, as a dad, I'm not mad at you stumbling. I'm happy that you're using those muscles to move. I'm not, when the baby stumbles, I'm not like, why did you stumble? You should know better. I'm just like, nah, did you see how far he went this time? Do you see how far he moved this time? And this is where Moses is at. But Moses, 2-year-old faith needs to be at 80-year-old faith for him to do what God wants him to do. So now God needs to bring him to a place where he can unlearn or relearn what it means or to develop in that faith. And that is where we're going to now. God needs to give Moses space and time to learn this faith. All right, yeah, I'm aware of time. And where does he bring him to? He brings Moses to the land of Midian, where he can learn or unlearn 40 years of what his life has been. For the next 40 years, he's going to be learning some lessons as a shepherd. Now, would this have a psychological effect? Unrealized expectation, broken dreams, broken expectations. What do you reckon is going through Moses' mind 1 month after he's been a shepherd in Midian? Like when the novelty of moving, of coming out, the novelty is all gone, and you're settling down into this new reality. Midian is his new reality. All right, forget a month. Let's say 10 years in to being in Midian, 10 years after he's left that old life behind. And this is his life. Yeah, none of us can relate to that now. None of us at the age of midlife crisis yet.
Gone past it, man. I'm joking. That's tough, man. You know what that is? That's you reach crossroads in your life. You're like, what have I done? Why have I not achieved what I've set out to achieve? What's happened? I've been there, when I'm like looking at the disaster that was my last lesson. God, why am I still teaching? I think it's time I give up. I've actually been there where I'm like told the vice principal that I'm ready to pack it in. She was ready to like call her brother and find me extra work, but I don't know. Grace of God, I stuck around and I'm on some journey upwards. I don't even know how, but it's tough because you have this idea about how you want to do stuff and it's clear in your head. And then someone comes along and just lets you know that you're not as great as you think you are, and you're shattered, you're sitting there. But Moses is sitting around sheep. He doesn't even realize that that is the greatest lesson he'll ever learn at that particular moment. I want to tell a story. I wanted to share this story from time. So when we were like 9 or 10, to tell you how tough sheep are, we went to this place called Tinley Hall. They used to send like London school kids always get sent to the country for 1 week away. I don't know why. It must be to experience country life. And so one of the opportunities I got was to feed sheep. Feed sheep, yeah. So I was given the bottle. Bruv, let me tell you, all I saw was one sheep running towards me. I dropped the bottle and I ran in the opposite direction. Sheep aren't easy. I rate shepherds because I just dropped it. Now I know as I reflect and I look back that all the sheep was trying to do was just get the bottle of milk because that's the food, right? But for me, you're after me. I was gone. So even though Moses is like, what is this? Raising sheep is tough, but it teaches you something about people. People are like sheep in some degree. They're a bit wild, a bit unruly, a bit rough around the edges. Need to be taken care of. Need to be pulled into line. Need to be tugged into shape. Like they need to be structured and organized, and all of these things you have to do. Moses is getting an education, but the deep thing is Moses can't see it. All he can see is I've gone from being in the palace to being in the field with these sheep by myself.
You know what else, Darren? Like the thing that really strikes me is the time, because you said 1 month, but he's not there for a month, bro. He's there for as long as he was in Egypt.
Yeah,
literally half his life, and that's the thing that gets me. There's something in the text that I saw just now as we go to the text from Exodus 2. It says Moses agreed to stay, man. So this is his father-in-law Jethro, who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. And when I saw that, it's like, obviously names are important, but there's the fact that he names his son, I'm a stranger in a land that's not mine. It kind of lets you know, like, there's that note of there's a waste that's happened there. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is why I think it's like, I can really picture in his mindset now. If you've been raised thinking you're going to be the deliverer, if not only you think you're going to be a deliverer, but you've got an undeniable miracle that tells you God has you destined to deliver your people. Because when you should have died, you lived. And when you should have lived in obscurity, you lived in a palace. And it looked like everything was set up for you to deliver your people. And then you run away and then you're keeping sheep. And you might think, oh, eventually I'll go back. But it's 40 years later. What are you thinking? You're like, I've wasted my life, God. And you're thinking, I had a chance. And the thing is, it's not just like I wasted my life. But if it meant delivering millions of people, I've wasted their lives. I could have delivered them, but I didn't. I think he's walking around with, like, Moses is a walking midlife crisis by this time, I think. And it's mad because he doesn't realize the thing that's probably depressing him most about his life is, like Darren said, that's the training. When you look at him spending 40 years leading people in the wilderness, you need to go through what you're going through with the sheep to get you ready for that. But I'm thinking in his mind, and this is why I relate it to us, because I think every guy in the dream has been through one of those moments where you're thinking, I'm not where I should be. You know, maybe I don't have the house I need. Maybe I'm not in the relationship I need. Maybe I don't have the job I need. But everyone in this room has been in that. I'm not making it yet. I've wasted something. That kind of mindset. You know what I mean?
Okay.
See, when it comes on to missed opportunities, yeah. Are we still leaning into that same point? Yeah.
Yeah.
I deal with it by trying not to linger on the past. That not saying you don't learn, but I read this book by John Maxwell, and in the book he said sometimes you win and sometimes you learn, you never lose. So one of the key things I began to realize is that if we beat ourselves up over past opportunities that we didn't grapple, many of us made the choice we made at that time in our past because that was the information that we had at the time. And our mental fortitude, however you understand the point I'm making, was of such that we made the decision that we felt was best for us in that time. Whether that was the right decision or wrong decision, in hindsight, we look back knowing we could have made a better decision. But that's why I say sometimes we win, sometimes we learn, but we never lose. Everything is a stepping stone to our greatness, to where God wants to take us to. And I love the fact that God sees us for where he's going to take us versus seeing us for how we feel about ourselves. Because the way we feel about ourselves is never a reflection upon how God actually sees who we are and who he wants us to be. So I don't look back on missed opportunities from a sense of, oh, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? I said, okay, I could have made a better decision. Let me learn and let me step forward and pray that if I, in the future, have a similar decision, I make a better one. But even if I fail again, God is still with me and we rise back up again and we still keep going forward.
What you just said there, Leif, is real man, big man thing talk. So I want you to say it again as like a statement, because like what Ashley was saying, there's enough of us, enough man who might be listening to us now, but we're in a place like Moses and they're thinking, oh my, I passed it, and all the greatest opportunities that I have are gone. Like this story I heard the other day about the guy who's lost his password for his cryptocurrency, which is worth about 22 million. And it's stuck in crypto land and he can't remember his password. And he's just living a life of frustration, thinking, I've lost all my opportunities. Everything that I've worked up for is gone. And none of us, I pray none of us get into a situation like that. Like even you're thinking, I don't even know how I don't know how I would be able to function.
You can't do forgot password, fam.
Yeah. Like I know how I get when I forget my Apple password and I can't remember it. And just the fact that I have to redo the Apple thing is frustrating. To know that you've got 22 million pounds stuck somewhere and you can't remember your own password for 22 million pounds, that is just next level stuff. But like what you were saying, even if you're there, this is not a lifestyle that you're sentenced to. It's something that God is preparing us for even something great.
Just to lean into that point, especially as men, we have to be very careful in the way we look back on past mistakes, because generally, I'm speaking generally now, most men don't really open up about how they feel. Me personally, even though I'm married now, I'm learning after 7 years to slowly open up a bit more to my wife about how I feel about things. So sometimes as men, we can look back on missed opportunities and feel so down about those missed opportunities and stay in that feeling and not communicate that. So we don't heal from the actual pain associated to that past opportunity. But what we have to do is when we look back and see it as a learning point, as a position of education, like we were in school in that position point in our life. And one thing that I'm learning to do is begin to communicate past failures, but with specific people. I don't communicate with everyone because not everybody has the tools to know how to help you move past that point in your life that you should learn from. They can even dwell more like, oh yeah, I know how you feel. It was like when I did boom. When the person could have said, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I had a similar experience, but it helped me to learn this. So I give you an example. I was on Clubhouse recently and there was a guy that was speaking. It was like, they called it like 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs. And there was this guy that because of the woman who he married, as a result of that marriage and choices he made some poor decisions. They got divorced and he lost over 100 million because of his business. But that man had the knowledge of how to earn 100 million. So he took that experience and didn't, when he, thank you. And then it took him, I think he said it took him 10 years to earn the first 100 million. After that situation, he lost everything, became bankrupt and in debt, but then he earned the next 100 million in 2 years.
Wow.
So the point I'm making, guys, is that as men, we have to be very what's the word? Intentional about how we look back on past opportunities. All of them are learning points. They are not moments to be depressed about. They are not moments to beat yourself up about. They are moments of learning to push us forward to become better in the future.
All right, Leif. All right. Hearts encouraged. If you had, that was a gem. All right, so we've got about 13 minutes.
Andrew had a point still.
Who?
Andrew.
Just very quick, Jay, yeah?
Go for it, Andrew.
It just dawned on me about Moses again quickly, yeah? Talking about manhood. Moses kind of grew up with, you know, it might not seem broken to some people, but like a broken family in a sense. Like his biologicals, they weren't around. Like one of my main subjects is studying childhood trauma, you know, adverse childhood experiences. And I know firsthand myself, but just engrossed in studying it, that is no game, like fully no game. Even the smallest incident that you might think, oh, the child won't get messed up because of that, they do. Like, you know, like for the longest time. So Moses was struggling from many angles. Like man ain't got his mom around, his dad around, his brothers, his sisters around. Imagine he's seeing his sister once in a blue moon. Imagine he's hearing about his people on top of that are in oppression. So my thing is that I give extra ratings to Moses because the expectations for Moses, you can't just judge him like every other man. Like you can't do that. It's like there's people that might say, and I'll be honest, there's men out there that have never cheated on their girl. They've never beat up a brother. They've never robbed someone. They've never stabbed someone, right? And then that man that's never done that, they give to charity. They got straight A's, right? They have one girlfriend. They've never ever done a bad thing in a relationship. That man's been upheld now as a man. Like that's what a man looks like, right? Because you know, he's portraying what man should do. But that man, not taking anything away from him, but his upbringing made him like that. Like he saw that. What did he do hard? Wait, think about that logically. God would never make manhood hard like that. The aim is that you see it and you be it. God ain't trying to make it like a puzzle. Like, you know, manhood is meant to be like some climbing the mountain. God ain't got time for that. God needs men. He needs men to be around. So he's going to make it, Clark, you be a dad to your son. He'll see it and he'll be a man. That's it. But man, like some of us, we didn't have that. So we're being penalized. Like, I'll be honest for myself. I've been penalized for half of my life, more than half, for not being a man. A man's thinking, bruv, this is all I know. That's all I know. And that's what I wanted to bring out. It's like Moses was that person. Moses got everything late. Bro, Moses went into the mountains for like 100 years, fam, and came back and was still making the same mistakes. You have to give respect to trauma in this. You have to. And I think God does. God sees it as Moses. I'm not even putting you up there like a Solomon, maybe, or like everyone has their own journey. And I think that manhood can't just be, and I know we're not doing this, manhood can't just be, you know, that man's always kissing his wife every day. And then, you know, he's always hugging his, bro, it's dangerous. Because there are men out there who trauma says they want to do it inside, but they can't do it outside because they've never learned that behavior. So what now they're not a man because someone stole manhood from them.
Deep. Definitely, bruv. Definitely. Go ahead, Ash. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just quickly on Andrew's point. I think what I love in this story is that exactly what Andrew's saying about the way God looks at Moses. He looks at Moses through that lens. Because when he calls Moses, like, he goes from being overconfident that he is, you know, self-motivated, I'm going to deliver these people himself, to being to the point where God's like, I'll be with you. He's like, yeah, but I can't do it. Like, he flips it around. He's like, I've just spent 40 years as a shepherd. I'm not qualified. I've blown my chance. And God's like, yeah, but I will be with you. And even when Moses basically about 10 times says, I can't do it, God doesn't just tell him, go do it. But he's like, no, you can do it. And this is what I'm going to do to help. And this is what I'm going to do to help. And he makes allowances for, like you said, the trauma that he's been through. God actually makes allowances for that. He doesn't just expect, you know, regardless of circumstances, just go.
On that, Ash, I'm glad you went there. When Moses is at the, all right, so we're fast forwarding. Moses he's been in Midian. He's been a shepherd for 40 years now, and he's at his meet God moment, right? He's at the burning bush. And he's there. He's done his thing. He's removed his sandals. Have you got that text there, Ash? You're on mute there. There's
The text of the burning bush, yeah?
Yeah. There's something about this text, based on what you were saying about, you know, where Moses is at now and what God is actually asking him to do as a man. Hear what he says. The Lord says, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. Remember at the beginning, at Moses' early faith, my people, I see the Egyptian be in my Hebrew person, my people. Now God is coming and saying, listen, I've seen the misery of my people. I've heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians, to bring them out of a land into a good land, spacious land flowing with milk and honey, the home, this is where I'm bringing them, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, the Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way of the Egyptians oppressing them. So now go, I am sending you to the Pharaoh king to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Then Moses is almost like he doesn't fully understand what God is saying. He's heard me, Egyptian Hebrews. And it's almost like he's still thinking, you're calling me again to deliver these people after I messed up so much back then? But he's not heard what God has said. God has said, I have seen. I'm going to do this. I'm going to deliver. Not you, Moses. I'm going to deliver. I want you to go and bring them to me. That's your role. I'm the one who's going to do the heavy lifting. All I want you to do is bring the people to me. Now, it seems like how I've read the story before, how I've read the story is that, you know, bringing the people to the mountain is almost in Moses' mind synonymous of I have to go and deal with Pharaoh and deal with it. God is not saying, Moses, be a man and go and deal with Pharaoh. Be a man and go and bat up Pharaoh. Be a man and go and bat up those Egyptians. He said, no, I'm going to go and do that. I want you to, once I've done that, I want you to bring them to me. Now, it says something to me about what it means to be sent by God. What is God asking us to be a real, and we understand that Moses is a man of God, a real man, because of what he's done, because of this whole story, we identify him as a man of God. But what has God actually asked Moses to do? God actually didn't ask Moses to go and deliver the Egyptians. He said, I'm going to deliver the Egyptians. You bring them to me once I've delivered them. So it's about Moses understanding or having to learn where his juxtaposition is in regards to God. God delivers, Moses is the vessel, the man who will lead them back to God. For me, what makes a man is a man who is cool with being sent by God. He understands his role in being sent by God and allowing his faith to develop to a place where he knows that he's a man who is a man because he is cool with being sent. Not that he needs to develop a faith that does all the delivering, but that allows God to deliver through him, and then he just leads people back to God.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. But what I love about this, and this is what God does for us, is God says Moses has basically lost his confidence. He's low self-esteem. Like he doesn't see himself as anybody. Like he's gone from thinking he's the deliverer to finally meeting the deliverer and like not even want to be part of it. Like, okay, cool. I don't want nothing to do with it. I can't do it. It's not even I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm not able. Like I am unable to do what you've asked me to do. I don't have any of the qualities that are expected of me to do it. He's basically shut himself out of the whole equation. And then God does this amazing thing of building up Moses' confidence. So much so that I may be wrong, but I don't think Aaron speaks much. The very man that's been sent to speak before Pharaoh doesn't say a word because Moses just gained his fire. And that's what God does. All God is doing gently is just building his confidence. He's not gone, bro, what's wrong with you? Like, fix up. He basically said, okay, I'll do this for you. I'll do this for you. And all that God is doing is building a man's confidence. That's deep. Because the reality is, if we want to know what a prime example of a man is, it's God, because he made us to be in his image. So therefore, if we are to truly be God men, then we have to be as God is. That is it on the line. And so that's what we need to do for men. Not denigrate them, not castigate them, not put them down, but find ways of lifting them up, because that's what God does for Moses, so much so that when Moses walks into the royal courts, he becomes the very person that Moses thought he wasn't. Even though all the things have been put in place for Moses to not do the very thing that Moses said he couldn't, so that Moses doesn't have to do it, but he still does it. Why? Because God does that for him. That's deep, powerful, beautiful.
All right. Thank you, D. Any last points on that? Because we're at 8:28. It felt like we've been here for 10 minutes.
On that point, you can tell by the question that Moses hasn't fully listened to God properly, right? But I just want I want to see where you take it from here, because there was someone here that had a good point. I'm not going to call their name out until they want to say it.
I'll just make a quick point first here before Andrew speaks here. So basically, in terms of Moses' response here, he said, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" So you might see that and think he's being humble, basically. So, for example, you look at Gideon, for example. God called Gideon, and Gideon said, "Listen, man, I'm the least in my father's house," basically. So being humble is good, but you can be sometimes too humble where you don't do what God's saying, basically. If that makes sense. So for me, it's like, even though Moses is saying, "Cool, man, who am I?" That's not the point, because God knows who you are. Right. And he's just saying, "I want you to go." So in my mind, personally, you have to trust and accept that God's actually calling you. If that makes sense. You can't doubt who you are because of what you've done, your mistakes, your insufficiencies, because God knows all those things. So it's like, it's not being humble by saying, "God, man, I'm just the least in my father's house, or I can't speak." At the same time, God's saying, "I know all these things about you, yet I'm still choosing you to still go." So I think personally, as a man, you have to, in a weird sense, rate yourself, in the sense that God's called you, believe in that, just be assured in that, basically. Like, don't doubt the fact that you're called to do something amazing. And I'll be honest, as a person, for me, I've struggled with that a lot of times in terms of like believing in who I am. And obviously there's a fine line in trusting in yourself totally, but you got to get to a point where when God calls you, you believe it and you accept it, despite the fact that you can't speak, that you're not experienced, you haven't gone here. God's called you. I know your weaknesses. I know everything about you, but I'm still saying to go. And for me, that kind of hits home, because as a man, you just have to accept that. You just have to believe it. And that's what I'll say based on that.
Steve, I love that, because it's almost like he's saying, "Who am I?" It's like, who are you? Who are you exactly? I'm not asking you to rely on who you are. I'm asking you to just do what I've asked you to do. I'm asking you to rely on who I am. I'm asking you to trust that I am coming down to deliver the Hebrews. I'm the one who's seeing it, and I'm using you to bring them to me. So as you're saying, Stephen, it doesn't matter who you are. The thing is not about who you are. The thing is about your calling on your life. It's not about what you've done or what you cannot do. The thing is about the fact that I called you to do it. You're the piece of the puzzle that's going to fit this particular mission. And have faith that I've carved you out. You know, Moses, 40 years in the wilderness, in Midian, carved him out as a perfect piece of the puzzle that was going to fit the thing. And trust that God does that for all of our lives. That's what we're putting trust in, and not in the fact that I can do it or not, I can't do it. The fact that God has made me the person to fulfill that particular mission. All right. It's been great. You said someone had a point. One last point. No more points. Actually, he's like, no. Yes, General, we're done. All right. So what takes place from here? We're gonna have a 10-minute break and then. All right. Let's explain that for us, Ashley.
We got something exciting that's a little bit different to what we did last time. We've been seeing some amazing comments from the chat on YouTube and Facebook, and I think that we always wanted to do this study is make it more interactive. So we love what you guys are bringing. We'd love to hear it in person, to be honest. So we can't keep going with this discussion forever, but there's so much more to do and to talk through. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to actually throw this open a bit. So I'm going to drop in YouTube and in Facebook as well. We're going to actually, or just copy it down from you can see it on the screen. We're going to open up another meeting in Zoom in 10 minutes time. We're going to wrap this one up. 10 minutes time, we'll say 1:45 at the latest. If you do want to join us, talk through any thoughts that you guys have had on this story, talk through any extra points as we go, to talk a little bit about the plagues. We'll definitely be touching on the plagues much more next week. But I think Lace just dropping the thing in the chat if one of the guys drops in on Facebook as well. But yeah, if you want to join us, just jump into that Zoom meeting, and about 8:45, we're going to start that meeting. It's about 45 minutes, but you can talk with us. It's going to be offline, so you guys just say whatever's on your mind. But yeah, do please join us there if you want to carry on the discussion. And that's, hopefully something we'll be carrying on doing as the weeks go on, so you guys can have a chance to talk through all these characters with us, because we want to hear your point of view on this as well.
And where's the link? Where can they find the link to the Zoom?
So yeah, we're just putting it in the chat, so I can see it. It's in the YouTube chat. I think one of the guys have you dropped it in the Facebook chat? Leif, maybe you can drop it in there as well. But it's shared on the screen.
In the YouTube chat, chat, I've put the meeting ID and passcode for Zoom.
Yeah, that's what we need. So guys, just take a copy of that if you want to join us. It won't be long, but yeah, please feel free to jump on that at 8:45. Tonight we'll start that meeting, and it'll be offline. You guys are welcome to join us and get involved.
Cool. All right. Well, it's been glorious, bros. Let's pray to close this section. Yeah. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the life of Moses. We thank you for his early life. We thank you that this, despite the context and the culture in which he was raised in, that he was a faithful man. He was a man that wanted to do your will. We thank you that he was a man who, despite having unrealized expectation, maybe despite having broken dreams and feeling like he failed in his responsibility or mission to you, that he was willing to be sent by you, even at an age when, a lot of people would have just written themselves off. He was sent by you. He was willing to be your vessel. And Lord, we've learned so much from his life, and we continue to learn so much from his life. We thank you for him. We thank you for you. We thank you for your son. We thank you for the gift of your righteousness and everything that you do for us. Continue to bless all those who have been listening tonight. Help us learn what it means to be a man. These things I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Yes, brothers. I'll see you.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you guys. So once again, thank you guys. Just to let you know, next week we are back. We're looking at the character of Pharaoh. It's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be very, very interesting, looking at fatal stubbornness. So join us for that. But yeah, just from me and the guys, Jermaine, thank you so much for leading out on that one. And yeah, if you're joining us, click the Zoom link in the chat. We'll be online in a few minutes. But for the rest of you guys, have a blessed night. Thank you.
Okay.